For gamers who play mouse and keyboard, full-sized keyboards are not known to be really effective gaming keyboards due to their size. That said, there are gamers who need that 10-key numpad due to productivity needs, and they want a single keyboard for both work and gaming. As a working professional, I totally get it. Well, the Corsair K70 Core RGB is marketing itself to this type of gamer, but can Corsair deliver a solid productivity and gaming keyboard for $100? Hey gamers, my name is Minus10, and I'm a middle-aged gamer that enjoys all gear related to gaming, streaming, and content creation. Let's jump in and answer the question, can the Corsair K70 Core RGB be both a productivity and gaming keyboard? As mentioned, the Corsair K70 Core RGB is a wired, full-size keyboard that comes with 104 keys, which includes a 10-key numpad, 4 arrow keys, and all the extras with a rather large footprint. The body is made entirely of plastic, but the top plate is made of aluminum, and the combination gives the board a rigid and quality feel. In addition, the K70 Core has some heft while sitting on a desk, and the keyboard weighs in at 1 pound and 14 ounces. Nice. The switches are Corsair's MLX red linear switches that are pre-lubed that give each switch a very smooth and quiet downward stroke. Inside, Corsair added 2 layers of foam that provide a surprising amount of sound dampening that is very pleasing to the ear and typing experience. The keycaps are PBT double shot, and they have a very quality feel, keeps the grease to being non-visible, and having just the right sandpaper feel for the fingertips. More on these points in a bit. In regards to multimedia, Corsair has a very nice dial knob that allows gamers to adjust a variety of options that includes volume, RGB brightness, vertical or horizontal scrolling, and zoom. The knob is very well designed, and with each turn providing a satisfying tactile click and very fine adjustments. The push down to mute, unmute your volume is equally satisfying and provides endless ASMR joy. I mean, listen to this thing. For me, I'm a total gamer. I always keep my RGB brightness maxed out, so I set the knob to the usual volume adjustment setting. Although I don't use a 10-key numpad very often, it was nice to have it while working. But what I really enjoyed were the indicator lights for the num, caps, scroll, and Windows lock keys. For us worker bees, just having these indicator lights is way more useful and convenient than trying to figure out if your caps are locked through software or some other method. Underneath, the keyboard has a single foot adjustment, and I found the height to be a tad too low for what I normally like, but it wasn't terrible. The keyboard feet are quite broad with a thick silicone pad that really does a solid job in keeping the keyboard grounded. Gamers can buy the Corsair K70 Core RGB with a wrist rest, but honestly, I'd recommend buying it without, as most folks already have a preferred wrist rest, and it will reduce the overall price to $100. All right, let's move to the stars of the show for the Corsair K70 Core RGB. These are the MLX red linear switches and the keyboard sound dampening foam. At $100, I really don't have a lot of expectations around a keyboard's typing experience and sound, but the Corsair K70 Core blew me away immediately after I pulled it from its box. Pre-lubed switches are extremely smooth and quiet when typing. If you've ever lubed a full set of mechanical switches, you can appreciate that it's a tedious process and most people don't want to do it again. Corsair's pre-lubed MLX Reds are good enough, and for, again, $100, I put this in the spectacular bucket. As for the sound dampening, Corsair did an excellent job with the plastic body, aluminum top plate, and 2 foam layers. Now, it's less than a lot of higher-end gaming keyboards, but for $100, The sound dampening is excellent. Typing on the Corsair K70 Core RGB is extremely pleasant, and after a solid week of use, I can honestly tell my viewers that this keyboard delivers an excellent typing experience. When you consider you can buy this keyboard for $100, I am even more amazed. Recent keyboards that I've purchased that are 2 times more expensive don't even come close to the typing experience, switch smoothness, and thonky sound that the Corsair K70 Core delivers. So, the icing on this keyboard cake is that Corsair adds in a very nice set of PBT double shot keycaps, and the experience is even more amazing. Corsair's product, manufacturing, and marketing teams deserve a lot of kudos in getting this keyboard out the door and into gamers' hands at the current price point. Outstanding job, Corsair. So what are the cons of the Corsair K70 Core RGB? Well, let's get the big one out of the way. This keyboard is a full-sized ride, and although it was fine for day-to-day work, while gaming, my mouse often hit the keyboard as I flicked my mouse. Getting used to a full-size keyboard while gaming took time, and I realized how much I missed my smaller gaming keyboards. Another downside was setting up the Corsair K70 Core RGB was a bit wonky. Straight out of the box, I was required to update the firmware, and it took several attempts as Corsair requires gamers to close out of all background apps. Out of all the peripheral manufacturers, only Corsair requires a broad closing of background applications for firmware updates. Not sure why this is the case, but those who are not deeply knowledgeable about Windows, they may just give up and return the keyboard. Another issue I ran into was getting the RGB to work. Sometimes the RGB just refused to come on after I started my gaming rig. This was always solved with a reboot of my system, but it does appear Corsair needs to fine-tune its software and the keyboard's firmware. Another thing to be aware of is the IQ button on the upper right is defaulted to play pause, but there's no indication that this is what the button does. Gamers have to go into the IQ software to figure this out, and it would be better if Corsair just labeled the key this way. Lastly, IQ is the Corsair K70 Core software, and to be honest, it's a bit of a confusing mess. Many gamers may be used to IQ as this is linked to the Corsair PC parts like fans, AIOs, and memory sticks. For these PC parts, IQ works well to sync up the lighting. However, if you use IQ's Murals lighting to sync all of your hardware, the only RGB that can be displayed on the Corsair K70 Core is the same color that is used in IQ's Mural feature. Not ideal if you want to have a variety of different colors on your gaming keyboard. So let's wrap this all up. The new Corsair K70 Core RGB is an excellent productivity gaming keyboard for $100 without the wrist rest. The pre-loop switches, solid sound dampening, and rock-solid PBT double-shot keycaps are more than enough to give this keyboard a recommendation. The only caveat I would put on this recommendation is that you have to be a gamer that is interested in a full-size keyboard. I greatly enjoyed my week with the Corsair K70 Core, but mostly when I was working the day job. When it came time to game, I did yearn for my 75% Razer Azoth or Drunk Deer A75. There are a few weaknesses, but for the price point and excellent typing experience, all of these can be overlooked. Corsair made a great full-sized gaming keyboard, and it was a joy to spend a week with it. If you enjoyed this video, as well as my approach to reviewing gaming gear, I would really appreciate a like on the video, as well as a sub if you would like to follow me as a creator. Thanks for watching.